Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Lauren and I love eyeshadow. And I have a lot of it, particularly eyeshadow palettes. I have so many. So whenever I get the opportunity to talk about my eyeshadow palettes, I take it because I have a lot and I like to talk about them. Today we're going to be doing a eyeshadow palette tag, and I first saw one of my fellow creators here on YouTube, Andie Gardner, do this on her channel, and I was like, yes, I'm so down for that. This particular tag is called the Eyeshadow Palette Tag 5000. I do not know why it is called the Eyeshadow Palette Tag 5000. I'm not sure, but that's what it's called, so that's what we're gonna do. Now, Andie did not create this tag. I'm gonna list her channel below as well as all the other creators who contributed to this tag, so that you can go check out their answers as well if you want to watch people talk about eyeshadow palettes, because I love it. You're probably here because you love it too. So let's talk about it. There are 15 questions on this tag, and I tried to be as thoughtful as possible on all my answers, but some of them were harder than others, I will say. So let's just get into this. The first question is a palette you wore to a special occasion. And this one was hard because I have a terrible memory. So I was trying to think the last special occasion that I went to, what palette did I wear? And what I ended up going with was the ABH Norvina Volume 4 palette. And it's got a piece of tape on here because it's in my project pan right now. But this is what it looks like. It's a gorgeous palette. And I actually wore this to my husband's niece's college graduation celebration that we had with his family, and it was just a really nice time. Like, it was so nice to reconnect with his family. We hadn't really seen all of them for quite a while, so I talked with some that I hadn't talked to in a while, and it was just great to celebrate. So it was just a really fun time. So yes, the first one I'm going with is the ABH Norvina Volume 4. The next question is a palette you love but it's repetitive. Okay, so this one stumped me. This one really did. So I really wanted to pick a palette that I do love, and it's actually a palette I have on my eyes today, and that is the Natasha Denona Bronze palette. Now, some of the colors are just a wee bit similar, okay? There is a little bit of overlapping with some of these colors, I think we can all safely say. And when you're dealing with a palette of this size, you don't necessarily want to see that, because not only is this a smaller palette, it's her midi palette, it's also expensive. I think it's like $69. So I do love this palette, but I do find some of the colors to be a little too similar to some of the other colors. But it looks great. Number 3, a palette where you feel like you got your money's worth. It has to be the ColourPop Aurora Struck palette. This palette is only $35, and it is gorgeous. It is just a magical palette. I feel like I talk about this palette a lot because I really do love it. It's just beautiful. It's got such a great variety of colors, and they all perform amazingly. Amazingly. It's just a great palette. There's just so many options. There's so many options. It's a great deal for $35, and ColourPop is always having sales, so you could probably get it for cheaper than that. Highly recommend if you haven't checked out this palette yet. Number 4, a palette that's an amazing deal. I feel like number 3 and 4 are very similar, but I ended up going with the Beauty Bay Bright 2.0 palette. This palette is $38, but look at what you get. Oh, it's a gorgeous rainbow. It's so beautiful. I've actually brought this palette traveling with me quite a bit, and it's amazing how well Beauty Bay's formula works on my eyes and everyone's eyes. It's a great formula. Anything from Beauty Bay, you're gonna get your money's worth, especially eyeshadow wise, because it's just, oh God, the formula is great. The colors in here are bright and vibrant. Sometimes you'll get like a bright palette and you'll put it on your eyes and you're like, oh, it's brighter in the palette. Not in this case. It's just as bright on your eyes. It's so much fun to play with. Great deal. Number 5, what's a quad that you wish was a bigger palette? This one was hard because I don't have that many quads, but this is the first one that came to mind. This is the Kaleidos Glowing Iris palette, and first of all, the packaging is just top notch, but the inside is cooler tone purples, and I love purple so much, so much. So I already love this color story. If it was expanded into a larger cool tone palette, I would be here for it. I would be 100% here for it. So I wish they were making bigger palettes. They just did their new release, which is more quads, and I just don't reach for quads very much, so I wish it was bigger. Next, a palette where you love the quality, but not the packaging. This is actually another one from Kaleidos, 2 Kaleidos in a row. So this is the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette, and I love the outer packaging. It's absolutely gorgeous. The concept here is that this separates. So this is the inside, you have the mirror here. I don't want to blind you, but it's 2 separate pieces. I have dropped this palette like 3 times, and I don't know if you can see, but this color is all smushed in because it's shattered. It's just, I know they were trying to do something different, which I actually really appreciate. I don't think it worked 100%, at least for me in this situation, but it's a beautiful palette. The quality is beautiful. So while I'm glad to have it in my my huge hoard, I don't reach for it a lot because the packaging throws me off. Number 7, show your dream palette in singles. Obviously, I had to go through my Clionadh singles and pull some out. This is the palette I ended up making. This is actually a Clionadh empty palette that I got. And then, this is the inside. So many multi-chromes, so many jewel tone colors. Clionadh, if you haven't tried them, is one of my favorite indie brands. They're beautiful. They are a little bit expensive, but the quality you get is just unparalleled. So, so pretty. So, yeah, I mean, I really hope Clionadh comes out with more palettes in the future. The last palette they came out with, Deep Sea Treasure, I haven't picked up yet. It is pretty pricey, and I go back and forth on whether or not I really need it because I have quite a few of their singles, but I'm very tempted. But I would be down if they came out with more palettes. Number 8, palettes you like to combine together. This was hard. And I decided to go with one palette that I pull out a lot to combine with other palettes. Not any other palette in particular, just when I need something that's more neutral, this is the palette I go to. This is the Stone Cold Fox palette from ColourPop. Sometimes you just need some neutrality in your life, and this is a great cooler toned neutral palette. I mean, it's got a mix of colors here. Some are a little bit warmer, but some are pretty cool. And normally when I'm reaching for a rainbow palette, I'll also bring in this palette just to use some transition colors in there. Another fantastic palette from ColourPop. I do really like their larger palettes like this, and just like a good palette to bring in if you need something a little more neutral. Number 9, what's a larger palette that you wish was smaller? So this palette is pretty new in my collection, but I love it. I've done a review on it if you're interested in checking it out. This is the Sirens palette from Jolie Beauty. It's massive. It's not super travel friendly, but it is beautiful, and the shadows perform so, so well. If it was half this size, I would be able to travel with it. I would even take smaller pan sizes, right? But just like cramming them all in, like that's fine with me. But I wish it was smaller so I could bring it more places. It's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful, but not super travel friendly. This one was another hard one because there was a lot of answers that I could think of for this. But what is an eyeshadow palette that you wish had a corresponding face palette? And this is gonna be a weird one, weird answer, but it's almost fall, so keep that in mind. I went with the Gimme Glow Haunted Pumpkin palette. And the reason I went with this one is because, again, it's almost fall, and I wish someone would come out with a pumpkin themed face palette. Has that happened yet? I don't think so. I don't even know what it would look like, but make it spooky, make it fall. I just want something different. You know, I have so many face palettes. I just did a face palette declutter. Honestly, we don't need another one, but if someone came out with something different, like something, I don't know, fall themed, like maybe there'd be colors that you wouldn't normally use, but they're in there, like, yeah, bring it on, bring it on. I want it. I want orange. I want more orange highlighters. Let's do it. I never see orange highlighters. Do you? I really don't. But it'd be something that would be fun to explore. And Gimme Glow has kind of recently branched out and done a lot more face products, a lot more highlighters, blushes, bronzers, and they're awesome. So I could see them pulling off a really great face palette that's fall themed that goes with this palette. Okay, number 11. What's an OG YouTuber palette you still have? Oh man, that would be the Tati Beauty Volume 1 palette. Okay, look. This is a great palette. It's When she first launched it, it kept selling out over and over and over. I could not get it. I finally got it, and I swear to God, I slept in bed with it one day. I was afraid to use it because I didn't want to use it all up and never be able to get a hold of it again. Not that I ever need to worry about that. It's a very non-realistic fear, but it's a gorgeous palette, and even the glitters in the top row are really good. And I don't really use glitters, but I've used them a couple times and they stay on your face. So even though I don't really watch Tati anymore, she was the OG YouTuber that kind of helped me start my beauty career, because I just loved watching her, and I wanted to, well, hopefully there's people out there that love watching me too. Like that was the goal. I just wanted to talk about makeup with other people that love makeup. So yeah, a palette that survived a declutter. Well, all of these have survived a declutter, right? Because I've declutter every year. This one I pulled out of a declutter. I originally decluttered it, I brought it back out, and that is the Naked Urban Decay palette, the honey one, the honey version. It's so gold. This is what the inside of it looks like. I ended up using it in one of my use it or lose it, where I pull out some makeup and, you know, kind of figure out if it's anything I need to keep or if I can declutter it. I pulled this one out of the declutter I had just done so I could use it to really see if I wanted to get rid of it. And I ended up loving how the eyeshadow performed so much that I kept it. Haven't reached for it since, so will it survive the next declutter? I don't know, but it's kind of one of those classics in my collection that I think would be a little bit hard for me to want to give up. And it performs really well. It's a great palette. So this one got pulled out of that declutter. Palette you regret buying. You know, there's probably a handful of them. Most of them have already gone on to better homes. This one is still in my collection, and that is the Natasha Denona Circo Loco palette. Now please note, I paid full price for this guy. I think that was like $129. I tried so hard to get this palette to work for me. I tried pulling in other palettes. I tried using colors by themselves. I tried mixing them together. And then I learned that I was the clown, okay? I looked like the clown, I was the clown. Half of these just don't perform very well, especially for a palette of that price, and especially for a Natasha Denona palette. I have pretty high expectations when it comes to her formula. This was so disappointing. Will it get decluttered in my end of year declutter? Yeah, probably, because I really tried with this palette, and I'm probably gonna try a couple more times before the end of the year just to see if there's anything I can do, but I don't like it. I don't like how the colors look with each other. I don't like how they perform. I don't like it. Number 14, a palette that deserves more love. I ended up picking this one because it actually just got discontinued. So, which really disappoints me because it's so good. But that's the Blend Bunny Primal palette. And it's a little bit out of my comfort range. A lot of darker colors in here. But the reason why I chose this one was because the look that I did with this palette when I reviewed it is one of my favorite looks I've ever done. It was so beautiful. I go back and look at those pictures all the time and recreate that look because it just makes me so happy. It's a beautiful palette, and I'm so sad that it got discontinued. I'm not 100% sure why. I don't know if people just weren't buying it, or maybe there is, you know, an ingredient that is no longer available that they can't get a hold of, but I wish it got more love. I wish it was like still being sold because it's such a good palette, but at least I have it. And last but not least, what's a color story that's repetitive in your collection? Now, I wasn't about to bring out all my palettes of this color story because there's a lot, and you will see them in my declutter at the end of this year, but it's rainbows, okay? I have to have about 25 rainbow themed palettes. I mean, I could have gone with neutral too. There's quite a chunk of neutral palettes, but then you have to decide, is it warm neutral? Is it cool neutral? What category is it really? And all in all, I decided that rainbow fit the answer better. So many rainbow ones. This is one that I pulled out. This is one by Nomad. It's another great rainbow, but all of them kind of look similar to this. There's a lot of this. I mean, even the Primal palette that we talked about, that's a rainbow palette, right? I don't think there's too many others. Oh, the Bright 2.0, that's a rainbow palette. We have a lot. We have a lot in here, and I'm not embarrassed because I love my colors. But that was it for the eyeshadow tag 5000. Thank you, Andie, for posting this on your channel. Again, I will have her video posted down below if you want to check out her answers, totally different answers, which is why I love these tags, because everyone kind of chooses different palettes. It's so much fun. I hope you enjoy this video. If you end up doing this tag, let me know. Post your video. Can you link your video in the comments below? Do it if you can, because I would love to watch it. I love watching anything about eyeshadow palettes. So feel free to tag me in your post, do whatever you need to do. But I hope you enjoy this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!